Hello, my name is Shaz, and we are going to continue this journey down memory lane. What do I have? I have a water, and we're going to play 20 guesses on what Shaz has over here, which I am not going to reveal to you until you're done with your 20 guesses. Ready? All right, first guess. Second, third, fourth, fifth, 20th guess. You're done? Ready? It is a banana. Ta-da! I'm the only person I know who eats bananas like this. You break them in half, and then you squeeze one side out, and you squeeze the other side out. That's the way you eat bananas really quickly. I never really like peeling a banana and eating it like a cartoon. It seemed ridiculous to me. I like ripping fruit in half. Apple. Can you rip apple in half? I don't recommend it. It's very hard to do. All right. Let's see. The real estate, it's important to explain those skill sets because those are the skill sets I'm going to use to start a new political party. Brokering. It's just a market that needs innovation. The political representation market. I recognize when I was in real estate, I was like, this industry needs innovation. I started our ad affiliates were a lot new ad affiliates came in while I was in. We were using Craigslist, and then now mostly people use StreetEasy. StreetEasy hadn't even started, or if it started, but it was low. We weren't using it as much because it was sold to the Trulia Group. Naked Apartments, which was bought by the Trulia Group. You're finding that a lot in this new tech industry. There's a lot of consolidation. What else? I remember when Google first got their first lobbyist in Washington D.C. That was a big deal. These guys, they hired what's his name, Eric Schmidt, and they got the first lobbyist in D.C. And it's like, oh, how can you not be evil if you're going to run the whole D.C. game? And now what is it? The tech companies are really enmeshed in politics. The ones who aren't are getting bullied. Well, they're getting subpoenaed to speak before Congress and all that stuff. There's something going on, and I have an opinion on it. We'll speak on it when the time comes. In the same way that like people don't push you, I try not to have people push me around. If I have a business, when I get into growing corporations this year, 2019, we're going to try to do some things. Use the same skill sets that we use people to people. A business to business. A corporation is a body, an artificial body, which has legal rights just like a person. Well, it has my corporations have character just like a person too. So there's principles of how you live life, how you walk on this earth. I only know how to walk the way I walk and talk the way I talk. It's got me this far. I'm sure that there's some funniness to it. I'm trying to correct my character. Listen to my words, correct my word, but there's some goodness. There's some like benefit too. What am I on? I'm on I did Biblioteca Vieja. That's good. I'm on 2014 real estate license. So I could catch myself up to this one. Oh, look at that guy. Earnest salesman. Oxford property. So that's what I'll do. I'll catch myself up to Oxford property and then I'll be caught up and then we'll do the next one. This is the 4th hour of today. I have 3 more of these. This is a marathon. 6 hours talking today. I don't think I'm ever really going to do this. Like, I'll do like 3 hours if I was going to do like, I'll do one of those. Like, I think Sean Hannity does 3 hours a day or Rush Limbaugh. But, my federal student loan is in danger of default. Shaz needs money soon. We'll figure that stuff out. All right. David McNerney, duly licensed real estate salesperson. See, so I'm not a broker. I'm a salesperson. Oxford property. Look at that. I have somewhat close cropped hair, decent tan. I would go back and forth to Puerto Rico. That was my go-to vacation spot. Sometimes California. So let's go back to my story. Because this is how I'm going to be able to fill out this 36 hours. And there's a reason why I do all this stuff. The reason why I have so many documents from the last couple of years is because this is the most important skill set as of now, how to execute in business, make money. The other stuff was getting to know who I am, make sure that I didn't forget those values, which is all fresh in my mind, and we'll see at the end of 2019 if I lived according to them. I've forgotten some of them, which is why I'm going to review all of this stuff. But now I can also not think about it anymore now that I've spoken on it and really set my mind to the task at hand, which is to create a third party and run for the President of the United States. That's what we're really all about here. But in order to do that, let's check our blind spots. We've been slowly, 5 weeks or so now, checking blind spots. But now we're getting into the meat and potatoes, the skill set, which is this Social Security number on my arm. Why'd I do that? That's actually a really good idea. A good place to start. I walked into Bond, New York, really impressed by how Douglas carried himself and the respect that he commanded in that office. Is a pretty big office, and in the company. I was like, this is a great person to learn real estate from. Just being around that and hearing, and then also, sometimes when I was in the office, if you're in any sales job in like a boiler room type atmosphere with like over 50 people all calling and stuff, put on headphones, don't do shit, act like you're working, and just listen. And just always the headphones stop people from talking to you and also make it so people don't care too much to talk around you. But listening to people in your office as a new person, you should just absorb in everything. We had a glass conference room at the front of Bond they don't have that office anymore. 250 Mercer was turned into a hair salon or some shit. It was a beautiful office, but they just, as the market was, companies went through a period of expansion, and as the market started slowing down, and we all are reading the same trade magazines, seeing the same data, companies started solidifying. And now the cool thing in New York is to have these big companies with one central office with maybe multiple floors in that building, and then have all their agents there. Back then, it was to have it spread out so that way they have a presence in all the neighborhoods in Manhattan. But Urban Compass, which later changed their name to Compass, when I got in, they first started. They were the startup of the real estate industry. They're the first ones, I think, to do that, to have the central office, to have all their agents there. And then some of the other companies started thinking about that too. So some of them have multiple offices, but not as many. Bond had like 5 or 6, and they all, I think, lately have been paring down, is the word that I heard. So they gave up that Mercer office. But it had a glass conference room at the front, which is great because New York isn't for you have to have somewhat of an ego. You have to be somewhat like this lion guy. You have to be like you have to want to get it. That's what the Wolf of Wall Street and all that shit. What's bad is the character of people who are willing to lie and cheat their way to the top. But what's good is the bravado and the sell me this pen is like on the spot. Is like, and then just understand everything is a benefit, everything is a negative. Well, those people wouldn't be as zen to say everything is a negative. I try to balance it out, but everything is a benefit. So if you're in an apartment, there's a cheesy way to do it, and then there's like a positive way. Like, these are hardwood floors. Like, yeah, they're shitty, but they're hardwood. That's nice. Versus like linoleum, like this space. It's a shitty rundown apartment for $2,000. Uneven floors, not that much sunlight, and it's a studio, and you have a kitchen against one wall, and so like you have 3 usable walls, So that's sometimes. Let's look at the positive. If this is in your price range, and if you have to be in New York and this is what the market's giving you, let's get the best that the market's giving you. And the best that it's like with 3 flat walls, you could put a bed against each one of these walls. You could put a couch somewhere. This is how I'd break it up. And then if you really don't like it, let's change the neighborhood. Let's do this or that. Oh, that's what I should do. We should. So I started doing this with people. That's what I was going to do. I would do stuff in order to teach them and also teach myself. I remember, so that's one thing I was going to say about Douglas, is I was in Bond, New York, and I was broing out with some of the guys at the end of like on Friday or something. Someone would bring out a bottle, because these guys, a lot of real estate people are smoking weed now, and I always smoke weed, but it's a drinking city and a drinking industry. So on Friday, someone brings out the big fucking fifth of usually whiskey or something, and then we all just, like the people who are working late, because we're busting our ass. These people are making money. We're not just dicking around. I'm trying to figure it out, and I also have this way that I would advertise on Craigslist, which I would throw like 30 apartments on one ad, all with hot links to a website. All of the realist. This is where having character and trying to figure out what you want to do in life honestly, you can always incorporate everything into your eventual plan, because my whole life has been in order to improve this guy, Shaz, his word, his character, and his skill set. The working now helps me with my character. The pursuing women helps me with my character. Helps me with my blind spots. Women have taught me half of what I know. I'd say half of who I am is created by myself, but there's this whole aspect of the world. There's this whole other half of our species, which is experienced biologically, fundamentally, in a completely different way. And you need to go tap that wisdom and the resource. Even my gay friends love and respect women because feminine energy is a real fucking thing. And perspective and this and that. So pursuing women is looking after that. Most of it, to be honest, is my horny desire, but within that is a supplication to the wisdom and to but then like sales, this and that. So when I was doing the political stuff, I care about that because it's true. Like the fact that we invaded Iraq under false pretenses to wage war of aggression for private profit and to socialize those costs by spilling the blood of soldiers that didn't need to be spilled, and by conning a country into a perpetual war, which is a drain on our public treasury. Again, all for private profit. And then the power brokers were the ones who were connected for the profiteers. This is as criminal and as ugly as human behavior can be. But that's why I speak on it, because I have one life, and people like me cannot be silent in the face of injustice. That's just not who we are. That's how I made my friend Mike in elementary school. He was picking on some kid at our table who wasn't able to defend himself. So I got the attention to me, and Mike was like, "Oh, okay, you want some of this? You want some smoke? You got smoke." He's like, I know where you live. I won't whoop your ass after school. But we became friends because the same way and then Mike had stuck up for me, and I stuck up for him many times in life, just different ways. And it's not a debt where I owe him or he owes me, but this is your brotherhood. This is your circle, your tribe. My tribe is Americans. It starts from me, and then my family, and then my friends, and then outwards my business and the people who know me. But as we go out into this world, as an American among Americans, I gotta say the shit that I feel like Americans need to hear. But that all being said, when I went on that citizens audit tour, one of the biggest things that caught me up was making that website. And so by now I had learned to make a decent website. That's what the Biblioteca Vieja, we're going to get to that. So what I had was I had a landing page where people would input it. And also Occupy Wall Street actually taught me a little bit about using Google Forms. Most of our communication was through Google stuff. And so I made a landing page where people can fill in information, and then that would populate a spreadsheet, a Google Doc. And then that's the way I knew from creating sales pipelines, I needed large numbers to filter down to the clients I want. These guys who are running around like chickens with their head cut off, just someone calls them like, "Oh my gosh, I'll do anything. I'll suck your dick for a commission." That's not the Shaz way. What we do is we create a sales pipeline to create a large volume of leads to filter down to the type of leads you want. But in order to do that, you have to know marketing enough to create 10 times the leads you need, because you're going to filter down that much. And then know qualifying enough to be able to actually have those hard conversations and have the self-control. So by the time you actually get to the third step, and well, it's not third, that's actually where I got this whole 6-step process. I have this natural inclination to break things down from the complex to the simple. I think that's what you need to be a writer. You have to be able to look at complex things and then think, all right, what's the lowest common denominator? How can we get it into 5-year-old language so we can go to our readership? That's all I've ever tried to do with the writing or with poetry or with anything, is get things down to their essence. What's worth remembering, is whether it's in a poem or a melody or a song or whatever, is what's the essence of the thing. That's you need to know how to do that to create art. But also this gives me a speed now when I'm getting into real estate, and I say, all right, let's apply this mind that I've never really applied to business. Let's apply it to business. How are we going to do that? And so I would do this. I would let me get to the point, and then I'll show the consultation I would do with people. because I'm still learning. That's why I brought up we're drinking with the guys in the office, with other guys too, who have their own ways of doing business. But Shaz's way is a little different. People tell me, they're like, "You're just passing up on clients," and I'm like, I would rather know how I'm making money than to make the most money. So I could possibly be making more money right now, but when I was first in, I was making consistently 3 to 5 thousand a month. And my first year, I did 40,000. So I would rather know how to, and that was always my goal. How do I automate this? So I knew, I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, I can make 20 grand in a month in this business. Just if all of my, based on my time and effort, if I close 5, 10, if I close eight decent clients in a month, I could close a client every 2 to 3 days. I could actually make like fucking, and even less. Some of my clients paid me 4,500, 6,000 on some of these. You have a 3 bedroom for 4,500 and you charge them a 15% fee. 1.8 times 4,500. That is 4,500 plus 0.8, which is 20% off of 4,500. So 4,500 minus 900. So that's 3,600 plus 4,500. That is 8,100. $8,100 is a decent commission. So I got one of those. I got stuff like that, like real estate math, just like quickly. Is that right? 8,100. Sometimes in my mind I'm like, that's right. I'm loose and fast with it. But you have to be able to do back of the envelope stuff just to quickly check your math, and then you always double check it. That's what we're doing right now. 4,500 times 1.8. 8,100. All right, Shaz, you still got it. The I was in that office drinking with those guys, and they were talking about neighborhoods. I just realized how little I knew about Manhattan neighborhoods. They were talking about Soho, and I brought up something, and it was really like Little Italy. It's not that big of a deal. But I started like, all right, so I started drawing it out. Like, this is what I would do at night. Like, draw out, all right, what is Manhattan? I always want to explain stuff. So when I was in real estate, I took this mind trying to explain the world and politics and all this complicated shit. And it's like, oh, you guys are just trying to make money? This is a lot simpler. I'm like reading and doing a lot of fucking like, I felt like I read as much as like a graduate degree course, and I felt like my book projects and shit, I wrote a lot more than most people do for their book proposals. So it's like, oh, we're just gonna make money? This is fucking easier than most. I was spending all my time doing it too. So I wanted to write, and this is something, I don't know, maybe if I get back into real estate, I'll probably write a book on Manhattan eventually, if I fucking have the time to actually. But I love the history. I would tell my clients, you're walking through a museum. This city is older than our nation. This is the history, Washington, Adams Street. It's because they lived there. The people who founded this country. This is a story of, they would have made it the capital, but they didn't want the financial capital and the political capital be in the same city. So they made the political capital D.C. Also, it was a compromise closer to the South, I think. But New York is the heart and the reason for America. It's the beginning. So when you walk through New York, the history of New York is American history. A cultural history. It's been the cultural center, possibly the cultural center of the world. That's what I have, this super romantic view of New York. I just felt that energy. And then, so that's why when I got in real estate, I would tell clients, I'm like, I was almost did stocks instead of this, and I'd be in an office all day instead of walking around with you. Managing and running that sales pipeline is half my time, but the other half is walking around the city, going to apartments. Once I set up, I set up my whole, we're going to talk about that, the sales process and how I set up my business. We'll do that with the 6-4 logo. Yeah, so we'll do that tomorrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that'll come out tomorrow. Yeah, we won't, shit. Yeah, so I have plenty of real estate stuff to talk about. So we are going to, I have to still go over the Biblioteca Bieche. So yeah, I would do this. And this would teach myself too. I would draw Manhattan, and I would go like this. Boom, boom, boom. Canal. Uh-oh, I messed up. Ha ha ha. There we go. Excuse me. I'm a little rusty. Let me do this again. Do. Shaz hasn't worked real estate for the whole year. Do. There we go. Look at Shaz's map of Manhattan. Not that complicated, right? There's Central Park in the middle, 59th Street, border Central Park. Then you have 14th Street. Then you have the H4 Houston. And then you have Canal Street. And you have Broadway coming across the whole city. That's all. And it's not to scale. Broadway should probably be a little bit more over. But then we put all these stuff. We put Times Square. We put Union Square. We put Washington Square Park. We put Tompkins Square Park. We put Gramercy. We put Madison Square Park. We put, oh, you know what, let's move. We'll put Bryant Park and we'll put Times Square over here. There we go. In reality, you should have Broadway going through Times Square, which is a triangle. But then you have, below that, you have Bryant Park, Madison Square, what is it? Yeah, Madison Square Park, and then fucking Union Square. Like, what the fuck? See, look at Shaz. You start losing the information as soon as you're out of it. Well, anyways, so this over here is, what side am I? This side. Aha. So that is Washington Square Park over here. Boom. And then this one on this side is Tompkins Square Park. And that's all you need to know. Basically, the point of this is to tell people prices. To be like, where do you want to be in Manhattan? And then I would show them where the train lines are and everything. Because I'd be like, Village around, that's Greenwich Village around Washington Square Park. And that's the West Village on this side. Most desirable, one of the most expensive. And then as we go below here, here's Houston. So Soho is south of Houston, but on this side. And then as we get over here, we have basically, that would be like Nolita, north of Little Italy. And then you have the Lower East Side. And then you have Little Italy down here, which is only really a street or two now. And you have like Chinatown. And you have, this is still all the Lower East Side. And then below Canal, you have Tribeca. Ooh, I forgot to draw Battery Park. I always draw Battery Park off to the side there. Battery Park City. And then you have the financial district areas. And then some of these I don't really flesh out because they're mostly commercial buildings anyway, so there's not much stuff. Like people be like, I want to live in NoHo. And I tell them, well, despite the coolest NoHo fucking pop culture reference you might have heard, there's not many buildings north of Houston right here. You have basically the West Village and the East Village, and you have this Broadway corridor, mostly commercial stuff. There's a lot of buildings, high-end buildings, but not in the price range I was doing. I was doing 2,000 to 3,000 one beds, 2,000 to 4,000, and stuff to buy. There's a lot of co-ops and condos. There's 3 types of buildings in New York: co-op, condo, and rental, based on how they're taxed. Co-op, you own the stock in the corporation, which is correspondent to your apartment. A condo, you actually own the space inside the unit. So a condo is real estate. Co-op is a stock certificate, but they're both relating to real estate. And then a rental building is just that. It's a landlord who has tenants. And then there's different regulations according to each. I rented co-ops and condos. So that's where, like, if I wanted to get into sales, I knew the process of putting together board packages. It's more intense when you're buying, but some of these rentals, it's the same fucking package. So I did 30 to 50 page board, which is the most intimidating part of doing sales. And then there's the whole sales pipeline and being able to qualify the leads and then actually figure out what they want. A lot of this is intimidation. So when I first started and I would do this, I would basically list all the neighborhoods that some guy told me. I got a couple people working for me off and on, helping me out, assistants and people I would try to train up. And this guy told me, he was like, I was watching this sale, because all salespeople are like superstitious, or most of them, they read these things and they because that's what, you either have the confidence, which I've been trying to earn through life experience, or you try to get it through reading and mentorship and spending money on stuff. I spent money on a bunch of stupid stuff. She's always buying all these training things. I'm like, why are you wasting your money on this? She's like, I need to. I'm like, you have it in you. You just need to do it. You need more doing and less people telling you. But So this guy, he was like, he saw some training where he was like, Shaz, that thing where you draw the whole map of Manhattan, they said that when you draw in front of a client, when you draw in front of someone, you're taking them back to childhood, because when you're doing that instructor role and it's like you're drawing on the blackboard, and now they're reverting to being listening to you for advice. So they're in a very receptive state. And I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to fucking internalize it. Every time, that's a good sales process. This is how I would have grown my business, and this is what I was doing. I knew I had something good because I was on autopilot. I when I After the first couple of years and money was coming in, I just stayed stoned and fucking like just checked in and checked out, and I was just having fun. There's this guy from Brazil that we went and we were drunk by the lease sign, and we went. He liked the apartment. He liked my process. By the time we go out to see apartments and my process is working, we've done all the hard work. So he liked it. I was like, well, let's put in the app. We put in the app. I was like, we got to wait 4 or 5 hours until they drop the leases. You want to go to my apartment? We went to the roof. Dancer girl was there, and we had shots, and we hung out. And I think he took off. He had to go, like, get a meal or something. But by the time we showed up at the lease signing, we were both pretty buzzed. But my clients are cool like that because they know that Shaz, that's what it is. It's like, I'm going to be the best at what I do, but we're also going to, like, we'll have a good meal. A lot of meals. I didn't eat out much on my own, but when the money was coming in with clients, I would definitely, well, that's also when you know the city that well and you're walking all the streets. I have all the places I want to check out. So I'm like, yo, let's go to this one place, and then you have your favorite places. And then that also builds credibility. I live in the village. I live in a very nice place. And I know when you're walking down the street, you're like, that place is good, this place is good. You're just telling them your memories. After a couple of years, you're just like, this is my life. You want to buy into my life. Where that's a good real estate agent and really knows their neighborhood like the back of their hand like that. They're like, a gatekeeper in a good way, is let me introduce you to my neighborhood and my lifestyle, because it sounds like you want a part of it. Or you want to live in the village the same reason I want to live in the village. This is a place to be. And just tell it, like what the young guys tell them experiences that I've had. Like, no, these are just drunken stumble over there, or like this or that. And then, yeah, what the girls feel them out. Are you looking for a relationship? Because where you live is going to be your dating filter, you know. When you go out to your local bars and your local stuff, those are the people you're going to be meeting in Manhattan. People say, I want to save money. I want to live in the Upper East Side. I want to live in Brooklyn. It's like, all right, but do you want, you're what, mid-late 20s? Are you looking for a serious relationship? You want that to happen in Brooklyn? Or you want to maybe like be in a neighborhood where the people are going to be a little bit, but this is the Shaz, the business, ambitious. Like, this isn't the political, idealistic. We have to reconcile all these Shazes. Let me get back to the Biblioteca Vieja. So, yeah, it's easy to coax that business person out. So I was drinking with those guys, the people at the office, just trying to soak up their perspective too, and the guys who make money. And I'd be like, I like that work hard, play hard mentality. And I was like, all right, I need to figure out. Oh, but then I need to figure out the neighborhoods more. So I started doing that. And then the more, that's what it is, the more you, that's all these little tangents I run off on. The more you do a business process the right way, the better you internalize that business process. And I felt like I developed a good one to help me keep learning better and better about Manhattan. The more I do that, and I actually check that against Real Map and think, all right, I should include this or that detail. But then I go to that new company, Titan Real Estate, which is a subsidiary of Hecht. And Hecht is run by two brothers, Israeli brothers, and I have a funny story about that. I was by then, so I go to Titan. I'll start there first, and I worked there for a couple months until like February or March. And that's why, what does it say over here? Biblioteca Vieja. When did I do that? So now I'm in 2013. I'm thinking that I'm decent at this. What I was going to do is in Bond, I noticed how I was advertising on Craigslist, and I noticed how the industry was becoming dependent on these ad affiliates. And from what I knew about like watching the insurance industry, and just Shaz applying his opinion. I always have an opinion, so I was like, you know what, we could be advertising different. I just had an idea for like a marketing digital marketing position within Bond. I was like, I should pitch him on that. And part of it is just trying to get out of this commission only grind. It's a really hard grind. So I was like, I was thinking about pitching them on the ownership of Bond on like hey, you should make a position for me, digital marketing, and I'll like try to get a hold of like this. This is like, there's a lot of new, it seems like, from my opinion, a couple months, new affiliates that we have to pay in order to get, it's, to be a real estate agent, you really have to pay for advertising. I would always pay 500 to 1,000 a month for advertising. The money comes in, but I knew that in insurance too. And then also living in Puerto Rico as a business owner. When you're a real estate agent, you're a business owner. Put money into your business. If you just take the commission and you try to run your business on a shoestring budget, you're going to have a shoestring business. You got to believe in reinvesting in yourself, believe in how much you'll work. And sometimes you crap out, but you have to put some aside to come back to the table. This is like, that's why I respect the business owners who are good gamblers. What's his name? The Bus family. I forgot his name. But the guy who died who owned the Lakers, he was a really good poker player. But these guys who grow businesses, it's like, how much are you going to invest in that hand? You know the odds of the hand. You know what the possible, if you're playing Texas Hold'em, the possible river could be, how many cards are left. And then based on those percentages, each hand is like a business you're going to invest in, or you have to know when to pull the plug, this or that. So, and you learn to keep yourself going. How much is in the pot? How much do we want to risk? So I respect that. It's just, it's a fraction of real life. It's a imitation and a game on life, but when people make that life, it's like you got it backwards. Like when people think that chess is so important. I love chess, and I don't think you could. I love chess as much as anyone can love chess. The history, the culture, personally, the dialogue, emotionally, because I grew up since I was young playing it. I remember the people who taught me, and all the people I played with since I was a kid. But it's not life. In life, you invent positions, you invent moves, you invent pieces, you invent the board, you invent the boundaries. Creativity allows you to play chess in as many dimensions as you want, whereas on chess, you could be really good at chess, but you've just memorized a lot of stuff. And computers can beat people at chess just because they're processing and calculating. But in real life, the computer is only as strong as the questions you ask it. So the person who can think of a better question to ask the computer is the person who's in control. That's the fallacy that a lot of the tech companies and the so-called tech titans, I think, have right now. It's not about processing power. It's not about, because we can always get that. If I can get a fraction of your processing power or a fraction of your technological advantage, but I could ask an exponentially more relevant question, then I'm going to be able to create a market that was unforeseen, or create a competitive advantage in a market that you currently dominate. I'm pretty sure that all of those words make sense that I just said, but we're recording them so we can always review them later on. So anyways, I've always felt, now that the Shaz ego is coming out in the competitive field, when it comes on the political field, I'm like, fuck George Bush, fuck Obama, fuck this and that, but now I'm like, fuck Elon Musk, fuck Google, fuck YouTube. The Shaz is a warrior spirit, and I need fucking people to fight against. I've made my peace with that. So, fucking, I go to that company, Titan, and that guy's a very cool guy. He's an Israeli, and he's very cool. And he's like, hey, I like your style because you're a very cool guy. And I'm like, thank you. I try to be very cool. I'm starting to work out. I'm starting to fucking feel myself, make a little money. And what this guy is doing is he's going around calling agents at other companies being like, why don't you come over to my company and I'll give you 100% instead of your 50% because you're a very cool guy. And I'm like, I like you. He was smoking weed too, I think. He was a pothead, so we recognize each other even if we fucking don't talk about it. It's like, yeah, you're laid back, I'm laid back. So I fucking, I make a little bit of money over there. I make like 10 grand. My 3 to 5 over a couple months. I meet a couple friends, make some connections that fucking lasted far beyond the company. But after 3 months, I'm just not feeling it. That's why I have to talk about Addy. Addy was 35 minutes. Yeah, this shit sneaks up on you. I was living with Addy in the Upper West, so doing all this real estate stuff. But like Addy and I have I'm holding a flame for her. Shaw's in Portland, so now it's like, oh shit, is this real? Is this the time we connect? She's still on her thing, on her addiction thing. she never really respected. Now I think she would, if we met now and I was doing real estate, oh my God, she would have been that. If her now and me back then would be a very cute thing, because she just got out of addiction this year and she's busting her ass and working. She's like, she's doing super fitness. She's fucking teaching kids Brazilian jiu-jitsu and shit and taking fucking Kempo, karate. She's small and bony, so she's got fucking elbows and she fucking, I think she got Puerto Rican in her. So she got legs, and she tries some chokes on me. I'm like, yo, dude, like, there's not, just because I'm bigger than you doesn't mean you could hurt me. Like, she could hurt people. So she's and then she's like busting her ass. She has like 3 or 4 jobs. She's thinking about applying to a digital marketing agency or some shit. But anyway, so back then she wasn't she was in her thing. She was working at a diner, and that's what fucking drug people usually get, these waitress jobs, these jobs they could drop and start. And I'm busting my ass doing the real estate thing. Oh, fucking, I come home, I'm just like, real estate. I'm looking at the market, I'm fucking over preparing for clients and shit. Like, I would do ridiculous preparation for little, like, they weren't little, but that's how I made my 3 to 5 a month, is I would fucking like exhaust myself for every client. Once I started making 10 to 20,000, it made more sense. I worked less and made more. But at the very beginning, if you want to get good at business, there's going to be a long time probably that you're working a lot for a little until you break through the fucking, you get over the curve or whatever it is. And then you start reaping your rewards of the system that you've created. And that's what the guys are like, you work so hard. And I was like, I'm just trying to figure out how, like, my type of clients. And like that's how I learned, like, I only want the 1 bedrooms. I started doing multiple bedrooms. It's like, now I got to cut out all the shit that doesn't, the 80-20 rule. All my little, I always read, so even the business shit I read is a Pareto principle or whatever. 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients. Always be trying to improve where your money comes from. And I was like, these multiple roommates with multiple guarantors and multiple paperwork and multiple ways that the deals could fuck up are like the gimmies. Why don't I just go for the gimmies? And that's where it was like, qualification process. Make sure that they're going to pay a fee, and make sure that they're exclusive with you. Those are 2 things that you can, and you have to know how to judge people by their word though. But if you can figure out if people are lying to you, get those 2 agreements, everything else is a piece of cake. That plus it's only a studio or a 1 bedroom, and you're probably going to close like a third of those, and that's enough if you're running volume. But that's what I'm doing. I mean, we'll talk about this later. This is more about, I have to get to that Biblioteca Bieke. Yeah, we got 13 minutes, or 23 minutes. So Addie's that's not really turning her on at all. So I remember we started hanging out, or no, she wanted to come to New York. And so I obviously still had that in me where I was like, oh, come on, I'll get this room, and that's not setting good boundaries, Shaz. But all of those things that we've done together are why we have the history we have and the relationship we have now. So, she's in that room with me. It's a fucking room. We're sharing a bed. One night I've since tried to creep on her, but in a very playful, Shaz, like, push me away type way. I think I was on mushrooms this last year or 2, and she was just like, why would we even? I was like, yeah, you're right. It's like, why, if I'm horny, there's other options. Why would we break that seal unless it was special? I think we're too stubborn too now. But so back then, I had Shaw and I had the tourist ones, but obviously I didn't have enough to, like, I was still kind of like the needy type of pursuing lover, where I'm just like puppy dog, like, oh, come on, why not? Whereas, like, yeah, I think as a man, from my experience, you have to have enough conquest or whatever you call it, but enough girls that you've pursued where you can have, like, I'm okay if it is or I'm okay if it isn't, but I know who I am and I know how that dignity, the dignity of, I would call it dignity, something about it. Where it's like, if you don't want what I'm offering, that's cool. I'm good with my shit. It takes confidence, and it takes, like, Shaw was the one that showed me that I could be loved. But then I needed more, just like, I don't know what it is. I don't know how to tell when I was over the peak. But I know I'm over the peak because I'm able to turn it down. I'm not, I don't know, maybe that's just an illusion, but I feel more confident in my sexuality now, and that's undeniable. And that comes from experience. That's the only way I can explain it. So back then, I was less confident. I was more, and that's where you get screwed in these situations, because she's addicted to a substance. Well, it's not just that, because she would tell me, she's like, I'm still myself. I'm still, when we would talk about stuff like this, it's like, I'm not, it's not like she wouldn't do it, things that she would normally do. But there's this one time that kind of stands out in my mind, because it was a bad judgment on my part, but then also I feel this is one of those things that is socially relevant nowadays. We're sharing the bed, and I'm kind of like feeling like, oh, maybe something's gonna happen. This is like over a couple months we're sharing this bed with this girl that I was fucking deeply in love with, early 20s. So it's just a bad. That's where, like, nowadays, like, if you avoid situations in which there's not clear communication, like, what are we doing here? That's when, like, Shaw makes me sleep on the ground. I get it. I'm like, yeah, no, I would like to get in a point where I can be in bed with you and we can trust each other not to do anything. But if you don't feel like we're to that point, you're being safe and you're guarding our friendship, which I understand. So me and Addie are in the bed, and I start moving on her, and that's where it's a it's a judgment thing to start moving on another person without the verbal communication. And I actually got my hands down her pants and stuff, and then I wasn't really feeling any reciprocation, and I stopped. But then she said the next day that she felt violated, and I was like, oh, it's not, it doesn't make you feel good to be accused of being like, I don't know, if, I guess diddling a girl against her consent is a form of rape. But then you're going to accuse your friend of that when I don't know if it was a conversation or if we were cuddling or what made me. What did we cuddle? We went cuddle, but we were close, and there's some reason why I thought it was okay, but then that was like a huge red flag. It was like I've always been sensitive to that consent thing. Like, if you fall on the wrong side of that, it's like, especially with someone who I know could be as manipulative as she could be, I was like, I don't want that stigma around at all, if that's how you feel. And then she told her friend, and I think she told her coworkers, and I was like, oh, this is becoming weird. This is like, I don't want to be that dude. So I backed out of that, and I felt really heartbroken too. I was like, I thought I was making a space for her to come into my life, and it was eventually going to work out romantically. But it's easy to gloss over these times in your life and be like, oh, it's just, we were living together and that was just what it was. But you got to slow down and really be honest with these emotions. That I made a space for her in my life so I can have that storybook ending, and that was like, that might have been like one of the nails in the coffin, if not the nail in the coffin, is when someone accuses you of that. It's like, Shah would never do that. Other people wouldn't, and this isn't who she is now, I don't think. But that was an obvious miscommunication, and I've only been safe around her. She knows that. That's why when she was trying to get clean, she came to my apartment, and when she was at my apartment, I bring up that mushroom time because it was like kind of silly, but like I made it very clear that this is your space and this is you. This, all you have to do is be happy. You don't have any responsibility in my apartment. You don't even have to get a job. She got a job after like April or May, but from January to April, I was just like, if you really want to be clean, that's all I ever wanted for you. Take my bedroom and do it. And I put the dancer girl in there too, and they became friends. And I was like, you balance out her energy because I'm fucking the dancer girl. That's also what helped. That's what helped me and Shaw too. If you're really hard up on someone, you really need to get with someone else. Because if you're not with someone else, then those feelings for that person, no matter how much you think you're over it, are always going to bubble up. But like, I think you need to get with someone who's very similar to them in body type. I hadn't done that yet. I got with like, no, yeah, I had in Puerto Rico. But like, I definitely got with this other girl who reminded me a lot of Addie, which was like, kind of helped me get over just like the horniness of like, what if? I was like, well, this is a lot, very similar physically of what it would be like. But I had a couple relationships after that incident, which really let me put it in the rear view. But sometimes it's ego. It's like, when I was younger, I thought you should sexualize, not should, but you can't help but sexualize all your female friendships. But that's the problem, is this miscommunication, and then now she's talking like it's sexual assault, and I don't think she means it. Obviously, we're still friends, and she covers my blind spots and I cover hers. But that is a huge blind spot, me approaching women like that And I could think that maybe she was just using it as leverage over me, because then I left and I went back. I went to Puerto Rico. I took a break. It wasn't just because of that, but it was a little bit because of that heartbreak and because of that. And then she ended up with the room. So now I brought her to New York, and now she ends up with the room. So it's like, was it a manipulation to get me out of there? I don't know. Well, I you can't really say yes or no. I wouldn't just say no, because I think it was shitty of her to talk to her coworkers and her friends about something that she should have talked to me about, and made me feel really comfortable about that. And she knows me. She knows me so long that she knows how sensitive and how giving I've been all my life, that it was a little bit of a way to be like, I don't know. Because she didn't say anything that night. And then I was like, oh, maybe she's just asleep. And I was like, and then I felt weird. I was like, I'll fucking have my hand down her pants. She's not really. But then, it's just verbal communication. It's like, I really like initiating sex or other stuff without talking, but be very clear about it. When it's someone that you haven't done anything with before, you gotta be clear. So that's like my blind spot. But like, I wish she had talked to me and we had better communication, but we work at it. But then also, that's one of the reasons why we shouldn't. We're our type of personalities, our egos or whatever. We just maybe, that's why I wonder sometimes if we ever got together. It's like, we'd probably fucking start arguing halfway through or some shit. Fucking, I couldn't even imagine. Because to have good sex, in my experience, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. And sometimes friendships are created based off of competition. Me and Mike fucking have been competing. I told him this year I'm going to try to sell my writing, and he's like messaging me just like a couple weeks ago. I have an agent who wants to look at my work. It's like now he's competing with me to try to sell his writing. So like, it could be good, it could not be good, but me and Addie she came through for me this year. I was really proud of that, and then also I'm really proud of what she's doing with her life. So I rock the boat when it's in a good spot. I don't know how I feel about her boyfriend, but she has a boyfriend, and it's an important step. And I'm trying to learn not to judge my friends' relationships, because I'll always be critical on the outside, but I ain't the bed that they sleeping on, and they come to you with their problems and their complaints, and you want to listen to people, but once you try to start solving them and giving them advice, then it's like, and then they stay together, and you get fucking. I'm trying to be neutral, but just a little bit of like, just as a dude, this is what works in my life as a dude. And then when I talk to these other dudes, I'm like, look, so you share your wisdom, I share my wisdom, we all grow. But as far as your relationship with my friend, that's unless there's something terribly wrong, like if you fucking are being mean or undervaluing my friend, then I'm gonna have to defend my friend, of course. When your friend's down, you pick them up, but it's one of these things. I'm still learning that this is like the subtlety of life. So back then I was burnt out, and then also I just got out of Occupy Wall Street, and I did this for 3 or 4 months, and it was a very cynical thing for me to do, just be like, I'm gonna go make money. So I was like, fuck. I felt really like boomerang from Addie, which it seems like Shaw left, and then I went and jumped into the Addie thing. And then Occupy Wall Street, I jumped into the real estate thing. So I went back to my comfort spot, which was Puerto Rico. And that's that girl that was on the Biblioteca Vieja thing. She let me crash at her house. I stayed with her and that old lady who treated me like a grandma. And this girl just had that little baby. And so she let me heal my heart at her place. And I was just like, in my mind, I was like really trying to let those young loves that you really hold a flame for take a while. And that's one of the reasons I think why I wasn't aggressive. I waited until I got money before I could really pursue girls. But I knew I had to get out there and break that seal. And just, you have a natural inclination to heal yourself. Some people intuitively, like people could give you advice, but I always felt like I knew what was best for me. I was like, I need to, and like Shaw was one thing, but I needed something else. Shaw obviously didn't take that Addie thing out yet. I think the next one did. The next one was like the partnership, but then there's other reasons why that didn't work out. Love is complicated. If I acted like I knew exactly why these things work out or don't, that would be me being arrogant. there's open conversations in my love life, the same as with my like social relations with like dudes. Like, I just know I have to go back and have conversations with these people if I can, and sometimes they won't. Some of these girls, one of my exes, she as of now does not want to talk to me about stuff, which you have to respect. Not everyone is like the Shaz and wants to dialogue and process everything. Respect emotions, especially if you're a bit of a dick. But back then I went to Puerto Rico, so that type of love, that shows me like, all right, let Addie do her thing. She has her own life that she's gone through. I got out of it. I went to Puerto Rico and I was like, well, fuck. I was trying to reconcile. I guess I've always done this in life, try to reconcile all my different disparate parts. And I was like, what is important to me? And just smoking and thinking and being down there and being with this girl. I wasn't with her. I've never been with this girl, but she's another one where like, I think I laid in bed with her once and she was like, what are you doing? That's not what we are. And I'm like, yeah, my best female friends, even if I'm silly, catch me, because it's not like I'm silly and I whip my dick out. I'm thinking, I did that once, but usually not. But like, they're like, they intuitively know we're better off as friends or whatever, and I respect that, and that's worked out better. She sometimes feelings develop later on, where this one, some friend told me recently that she actually developed feelings for me. She never really told me, and I was like, there was a couple times I was pretty open where I was like, was I? I think a little bit. She knew that I was down, but it was complicated. She had the kid, and then the kid's dad, and there's stuff that gets complicated in those relationships. But I want to visit her in Florida and say hi to her. Not the hookup thing, but just like let people like that in my life I could see after a year or 2 years, and just like there's so much love. We just, for whatever time we can get in each other's presence, there's just some people who are there for you, or you connect, where it's time's not the important thing, and like, or sex, or like the attraction, it's the person. Just, I'm very happy she's still on this earth, and I'm sure I bring her joy. And so when you can share, like, so when I needed someone, that's how those people become those people in your life, is that we were both, she was, I think, healing over the baby's daddy, and I was healing over the New York thing. Yeah, we just smoke, hang out, go to the beach, put the little baby on a longboard and paddle around with the baby around an island or something. She loves the ocean. We love a lot of the same stuff. And then I was like, I want to make a library on this island. I got that idea because I was thinking Occupy Wall Street, the coolest people I met there were the anarchist librarians. If I have to look at, I was thinking, what do I have to this world? What have I tried to do? What have I tried to do so far in this world to bring some peace to it? I've identified the problem, which is that you have these violent systems, define violence as getting your needs met at the expense of another, whether they're financially violent systems or militarily, or the state, defined by anarchism, anti-authoritarianism, that maybe we don't need these nation states and maybe they're violent to begin with inherently, whatever, but just let's abstract it out, have violent systems that are preying on individuals, and we see it all around. People are working harder for less money, the profits are going somewhere. Either we're all a bunch of dumbasses or we're getting conned by some sort of fucking system beyond our control. And I'm like, and so I go and try to expose it. I don't go on the college track, I go on the military track. I don't find much honor in the military, but I also don't have enough discipline or responsibility to stick with it, even if I thought it was honorable, but I kind of, it smelled like it was shitty. Go in college, don't find my honor there. Start creating my own art, start reading a lot, trying to create my own sense of honor. This Shaz barbaric persona. And then fucking, I go, I find love, and I go around California, and I fucking go get some hands-on experience as well. And then I go, always thinking about writing, always thinking that the word is my best tool. After Puerto Rico and experiencing some of nature and natural systems and violent systems beyond authority, beyond the nation state, anarchistic societies pretty much. Not completely, but there's some wild shit. And then I decided to complete American's Guide for Revolution, synthesize all my ideas up to that point, and then live in Occupy Wall Street, which is another, that was a lot like Citizens Audit, getting firsthand experience in politics as it is, activism as it is, as opposed to just me writing and reading books, but going to the state capitol in California, talking to legislatures, That was the same thing as Occupy Wall Street, actually being around and organizing among activists. And then I went to real estate and made some money, and I thought I was going to make a little life with Addie and reconcile those stories. And that wasn't happening, and she's still lost, and I'm still obviously approaching women in the wrong way. No matter how much I held it against her for not communicating with me openly, that was the wrong way to approach her and a woman in general. And then, so I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? So I'm like, the knowledge, and that's why when I read that, I read the whole outline. I was like, libraries, this girl right here, her and her baby, how is this baby going to grow up? Like, if I had to give up everything in life, what's important to me? And I was like, this island has been home to me, and it's taught me so much about being a man in all aspects of manhood and fucking family and in aspects that like I was missing in my own life. And if that's my home, it's I live here and Manhattan's great and other stuff, but like that island has a certain energy, and it's almost arrogant to call it my home when it has people living on it, because those people are the ones who live there. And that's why I put in that those people go through more than any American ever goes through, because of where they are. They're the most violent, the most poor, and the most contaminated spot in the United States. And the only reason people don't know about it is because it's not even treated as the United States. It's treated like a third world. And these people are Americans with citizenship and with everything. When Puerto Rico lost its power, they lost even more power. And after Puerto Rico got its power back, they were still without power. This is the outskirts of civilization. That's the energy that I'm attracted to. This is the wild. This is people don't die from one gunshot wound. You die from 25 gunshot wounds. And you don't, there's just, it's not to glorify the violence or to glorify the poverty. It's they need help. It's what I was like, this is where the front line of the battle is for civilization and humanity. These people need, if I have something to give the world, this is where it should be given. And what do I have to give? Wisdom. And also thinking about what type of life do I want? Surrounded by books and writing, I'd be happy. And where do I want to do that? In paradise. That's what later on when I wrote my first attempt at an autobiography was like, the place where God walks. That's what Borinquen was. The Puerto Rico was supposed to be the land of God. I need to read more about my Puerto Rico history. Just like right now I'm getting into anarchism. I don't rush shit. I have so many books about Puerto Rico and Vieques and the struggle and this and that. But your passion's your passions, your heart's your heart. Life isn't school for me. I read shit because I want to read it. I want to make sense of the world. So right now, in order to write what I need to write, I needed to make sense of anarchism. So now I'm finally reading about Woodcock, which has given me a lot of other, because I know myself. Once I read one thing, then I spread out into a million different things. But if I did that all the time, I'd always be fucking. So every now and then I just chill. But there's a time in my life which I'm really going to dig into Puerto Rican history, because what that island meant to me, and because of the connections I made with myself. Just certain places. People fall in love with geographies. Some people just, you go somewhere, Big Sur's like that. I have a couple of them, but that one is the one. But like I have a couple places that touch my heart. I drive to Malibu and I feel it, usually on the coast. I feel the streets of Manhattan. I feel like I could live, that's why this year, it's not just living in Manhattan, it's the streets of Manhattan. Like walking the streets at night, being on the street at night. Like there's something about Manhattan. It's not just living in this city. It's like literally like the sidewalks, the streets, the parks. I remember just smoking joints in fucking Washington Square Park under a tree. Just, it's the earth underneath your feet. Like that's why I long to be outside sometimes. That's why this guy dropped acid with. That's his trip. He's in the summer, he's all in the streets. We both recognize it in each other. We'd rather be out than in. The city is so vibrant, we'd rather be out, even if it means living on the street than in. You just, I sleep on my roof so many times. Just to wake up under the sky in Manhattan is something. Whether on the roof or on the street. I remember, we're running out of time, we got 20 seconds. Anyways, I caught up the Biblioteca Vieja. I went down. Well, no, I'll catch up more the next one. I have to explain a little bit why I didn't continue that. And why I came back to Manhattan to do real estate. But that was my idea, was that let's give back something to this island. And I think this is actually, that's still something in my heart. That's why I put it in there. Because that's an open conversation. I owe that. I took from the island piece and I owe them the library.